Welcome to the Manager Lab, where we delve into the increasingly dynamic world of talent management. In each episode, we will unravel key insights, break down the most relevant books and articles, and provide actionable tips to optimize your approach in developing and retaining top talent. Stay tuned for a deep dive into the art, science, and strategy of unlocking your team's full potential. Let's enter the Manager Lab. Today we're talking about one of the most challenging and honestly one of the most transformational leadership principles from John Maxwell's The 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership, the Law of Sacrifice. Maxwell says it this way: a leader must give up to go up. That one sentence cuts against almost everything our culture teaches us, because most people think leadership is about gaining more influence, more authority, more recognition, more perks, more control. But Maxwell flips that thinking upside down. Real leadership isn't about what you gain. It's about what you're willing to give up for the sake of other people. And if you've led people for any amount of time, you already know this is true. Leadership costs something. It costs you. The higher you want to lead, the more you'll have to sacrifice. Now, here's what is interesting about this chapter. Maxwell explains that many people are willing to make sacrifices early in life to achieve success, but very few continue sacrificing once they become successful, i.e., once they become managers and leaders in organizations. That's the difference between achievement and leadership. Leaders never stop sacrificing. Maxwell shares examples throughout the chapter of leaders who continually gave up comfort, time, convenience, and even personal ambition for the people that they served. One of the strongest examples he references is Martin Luther King Jr., who sacrificed safety, comfort, and ultimately, unfortunately, his life in service of a greater cause. And that's the heart of this law. Leadership is not self-serving. Leadership is others-serving. And while most managers won't face sacrifices on that scale, every leader faces daily moments where they must choose, will I prioritize myself or my people? Because sacrifice in leadership usually doesn't look dramatic. It looks practical. It looks like staying late to help a struggling employee, or giving credit away instead of taking it, having the hard conversation that you'd rather avoid, listening when you're absolutely exhausted, investing in someone who may never fully repay you, or choosing long-term growth over short-term comfort. That's leadership. And Maxwell makes another important point in the chapter. You don't sacrifice once and then you're done. Leadership requires continual sacrifice. And that's important for managers to hear, because sometimes we think, I've already paid my dues. But leadership keeps asking more from us: more patience, more humility, more emotional maturity, more consistency. And the good news is this: healthy sacrifice creates meaningful impact. The wrong sacrifices will drain you, but the right sacrifices will grow people and ultimately energize you. So let's talk practically about what this means for managers today. Key takeaway number one. Leadership means choosing responsibility over convenience. One of the clearest themes in this chapter is that leaders go first. When problems arise, leaders don't hide, they step in. When morale drops, leaders don't disappear, they bring energy. And when accountability is needed, leaders don't blame others, they take responsibility. That's sacrifice. As a manager, convenience says, someone else can handle that. Leadership says, my team needs me to step into this. And believe it, your team notices the difference immediately. People will follow leaders who consistently put the mission and the people above personal comfort. Key takeaway number two: you must give up some things to grow into new levels of leadership. Maxwell talks about how every level of leadership requires a new level of sacrifice. You can't lead at a higher level while holding on to every old habit, priority, or comfort. For managers, this often means sacrificing the need to be liked by everyone, or the comfort of avoiding conflict, or micromanaging control, or doing everything yourself, or short-term productivity for long-term people development. One of the hardest transitions for many managers is realizing what made me successful individually may limit me as a leader. And great individual performers often succeed by being the hero. Great leaders succeed by developing heroes. And that's sacrifice. And that requires sacrifice. You may have to sacrifice speed to coach somebody. You may have to sacrifice personal recognition to elevate your team. You may have to sacrifice perfection to allow someone else to learn. And that's how leadership multiplies. All right. Key takeaway number 3. The best leaders sacrifice for a purpose bigger than themselves. Maxwell emphasizes that sacrifice only makes sense when connected to purpose. Otherwise, leadership just becomes burnout. This is incredibly important for modern managers. Sacrifice should not mean destroying your health, neglecting your family, or carrying everything alone. Healthy leadership sacrifice is purposeful, not reckless. You sacrifice so others can grow. You sacrifice so the mission can move forward. You sacrifice because the work actually matters to you. And people are inspired by leaders who visibly care more about the mission than their own ego. When teams believe their leader genuinely serves the greater good, trust deepens dramatically. Now, let's make this intensely practical. Here are 4 actionable leadership tips that you can apply as a manager right now from the law of sacrifice. Tip number 1, give away credit publicly. One of the easiest and most powerful sacrifices is surrendering the spotlight. When something goes well this week, intentionally highlight your team members by name. Celebrate contributions publicly, because strong leaders don't need every win attached to their identity. And here's the irony: leaders who give this credit away often gain more influence, not less. Tip number 2, spend time developing someone with potential. Maxwell consistently teaches that leadership is about developing people. So choose one employee this month and intentionally invest in them, coach them, encourage them, teach them what you know, create opportunities for them to grow. And yes, that takes time and it may temporarily slow you down, but leadership sacrifice today creates leadership capacity tomorrow. Tip number 3, have the difficult conversation you've been avoiding. Avoiding hard conversations feels easier in the moment, but it usually costs the team later. So great leaders lean in to sacrificing temporary comfort for long-term health. If there's an issue around accountability, communication, attitude, or maybe performance, address it with honesty and care. Address it with radical candor, if you know that term. Your willingness to lean into discomfort often protects the culture for everyone else. And finally, tip number 4, evaluate what you need to let go of. This is a powerful reflection question from the chapter's principles. What am I holding on to that is limiting my leadership? Is it control? Is it pride? Is it insecurity? Is it the need for recognition? Or maybe it's trying to prove yourself constantly. Every leader has something they must release to grow, because again, you have to give up to go up. As we close today, here's the big idea. I hope that sticks with you. The leaders that people remember most are rarely the ones who accumulated the most power. They're the ones who gave the most of themselves to help others succeed. That's why sacrifice is not weakness in leadership, it's strength. It's one of the clearest demonstrations that leadership is about service, not status. And your team doesn't need a perfect leader. They need a leader who is willing to consistently put people, purpose, and growth ahead of personal comfort. That kind of leadership changes cultures, and that kind of leadership builds trust. And ultimately, that kind of leadership leaves a legacy. Well, thanks for listening today. And until next time we meet in the Manager Lab, do good work.